and then return the option that we just got. Then I can change this code to use our new getScreenOption function. So after we load the page, what I'd like to do is retrieve the screen option and then set the text box's text property to our screen option value. Now the AppLink provider sets up all the communication with the configurator during the page load event. So because it's in the middle of setting it up, we don't have access to the screen or the screen option yet. So what we're going to need to do is hang off an event that happens a little bit after page load. In this case, we're going to hang off of the onPreRender event. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is retrieve the AppLink screen option. Now all I need to do is get our text box, get its text property, and assign it to the options value. And that's it. So we'll go ahead and build. And I would move the assemblies over into the C3G web folder again. But let's go ahead and write some rules. I'll create another condition to group our rules. Call this phase 3. Create a screen. And we'll create the configuration variable we want to use as a screen option. I'll just set the application link to phase3.aspx. Go ahead and save that. And we're ready to go. So let me remove this line item. We go ahead and start configuration. We have our third app link down here. Let's go ahead and click on the app link icon. I can enter a value. We'll stick with test. I'll click update. And you see that I have the updated value on the left hand side, as well as I still have the value in the text box. I can finish configuration. And I'll go in and reconfigure that line item. And when I select that application icon, you see that I correctly got the screen option, retrieved its value, and loaded that into the text box. So what we've done is we've created a app link that can update a screen option and also retrieve that screen option's value when we first come into the app link and display that in the text box. So now that we've covered that, let's go ahead and complicate things a little bit. Let's assume that we want to update multiple screen options at a time instead of just one. So we'll go back into our project. Let me close all these windows. I'll go ahead and copy our phase 3 app link. I'll paste it. No surprise there. Change its title. And change where it inherits from. So we'll switch that to phase 4. We'll go into the code behind page, and we'll change the class name to phase 4. Now the first thing that grabs my attention is that we have this constant screen option ID, phase 3. Well, that's not going to work for us anymore because we want to update multiple screen options at a time, so we'll have multiple screen option IDs. I could have screen option ID 1, 2, 3, 4, but we won't do that. Let's assume, for the sake of experiment for this app link, I'm going to be updating 3 screen options. Those screen options are going to have the name first, second, and third. So the first thing I'll do is create an enumeration and I'll call that screen option type. And the only thing that this enumeration is going to do is give us consistent naming across our class with first, second, and third, so that I'm not confused about what screen option ID I'm using or anything like that, and I don't have a dozen strings floating around my class. Now, unfortunately, this enumeration is not the screen option ID we want to use. This just represents the value 0, 1, 2, and 3, or 0, 1, and 2. So what I'm going to need to do is map this enumeration value over to a string that represents our screen option ID. In order to do that, I want to create a dictionary that has a key of screen option type and a value of string, which will be our ID. In order to do that, I'll come up here and I'll import a new namespace, which is system collections generic. And the generic gives me the ability to create a generic dictionary. So let's do that. And we're going to have a generic dictionary who has a key type of screen option type and a value of string, and we'll call that screen option mapping. So we've created our dictionary, but now we need to set it up. I could try and set it up just in this page load event, but I tend to lean towards functions. So let's go ahead and create a new function. We're going to call that setup screen option mapping. The first thing we're going to do is set it to a new instance of our dictionary. And then all we're going to do are add some elements to it. And so we'll add a screen option ID, or a type of first, an ID of first. I can copy that and then change these over. So what we've done is we've allowed our class to refer to these screen options by these strongly typed enumerated names, and we have one consistent spot where we can change all the screen option IDs that we're going after. So if the rules change or anything like that, we don't have to go through our class and try and find all these guys. So I'll go ahead and copy this function, and I could call the function in the page load event, but that's not exactly the first thing that runs on a page. The very first thing that runs on a page is the constructor for the page. And I actually don't want that to be private. I want that to be public. And the constructor is the first function that's called when you try and create an instance of a page. So when we go to actually view this app link, the phase4 function right here will be the first guy to execute. And so all I'm going to do is set up our dictionary right in there. So we're done, and we have our dictionary screen option mapping that gives us the screen option IDs of any screen option we want to update. So let's go ahead and look at the markup of phase 4. And currently we have one text box, which worked fine for one screen option, but it's not going to cut it when we have 3 screen options to update. So let's go ahead and add 3 text boxes. I'll change the ID to be first, second, and third. You can see that they're all with run at server on them, so we can access those text boxes from the code behind page. And that's really all the changes we need to do to this markup page. So let's go back in the code behind page and look through our code. And the first function I see is get screen option. Get screen option was retrieving a screen option with one ID. What we need to do is extend that so that we can retrieve any screen option that we want. So I'll go ahead and pass in screen option type. And then I'll change this function to, instead of using that constant string value, to instead look up the ID in our dictionary based on the screen option we passed in.